Hey everybody, I'm going to do a video on the upcoming opinion editorial assignments. This video is just going to be on the preliminary assignment. Sometimes you may notice that I do a preliminary assignment just to get you accustomed to what I'm asking you to do. And in this case, it's going to be me asking you to just review what what an opinion editorial is. I'm giving you a lot of freedom on this in the sense of you can choose any topic, any opinion editorial. I've given you some links. I'm going to show you those. Then I'm going to post a second video, and that's going to show, um, just what an opinion editorial is, definition, the history of it, what I'm asking you to do with the assignment, those kinds of things. So depending on which one you watch first, one will be on the preliminary assignment, which will be due at the end of week 11. And then the other one will be the actual opinion editorial that you will write on your topic. So let's get started with this one. So for the preliminary assignment, basically I've given you some links here and hopefully they'll work. The internet's being a little weird tonight. I think a lot of people are on the computers. So I've given you some pages here that you can search. You do not have to use these. Honestly, I was just trying to sort of help you do some of the work, and hopefully this helps you. But let's just let's look at USA Today. So I've sort of linked you to their opinion editorial page, and in the other video I will talk about what an opinion editorial is, what the page looks like, where you find it, all those kinds of things. But in this case, for the preliminary assignment, I'm asking you to review one opinion editorial piece. Again, it can be on any topic you choose. I would say pick something you enjoy reading about. And then you are just going to you're going to answer some questions. One of the things I've noticed when I've graded some of your papers for the preliminary things is you sort of, everybody doesn't take it seriously sometimes. And I noticed that students give short little answers. And guys, this is a college class. To get an A on something, you need to give complete answers. And if I give you a prompt, you need to answer that prompt fully. And that's just an expectation for college courses. We're looking for you to tell us what you understand, a complete answer. So like one sentence sometimes doesn't get it. You'd want to sort of give your response and then follow it up with an explanation or an example or something that ties in to your answer. So if you're disappointed about some of your grades, that's a great way to get an A with me, is just to set it up, give the example and explain it. And, I give you a lot of credit for that. But anyway, I digress. So if you see here, most of these websites that I've linked you to have an opinion section. So just click on that. And then an opinion editorial, as I will discuss in the other video, is something that a regular citizen writes. It's something that a regular citizen has a concern about, and they want to share that concern publicly. And so it can be written by a staff member of the paper, someone from the board of directors. Sometimes gets an opinion editorial published, like if they're with the board of directors for the subject matter or for the organization that they're speaking about. But most of the time it's just a regular citizen. Now I will say a lot of celebrities do opinion editorials. The President Trump used to do a bunch of them. I don't think he does them now. So sometimes politicians or well-known people will do them, but really the basis is usually a regular citizen who is not a journalist, who is not on staff for the paper, would write it. So here I'm just going to kind of look through this and just see if something looks interesting. I'm sure these days you're going to see a lot about the coronavirus, and that's okay. Here's an opinion: how to live ethically in a pandemic. And this is kind of tying into where we live now. The problem with USA Today is sometimes you get a lot of pop-up videos, and I'm not being able to get rid of this one. Great. Let me move my video, and then sorry about that. Let me try again. I apologize for that. It just kind of came up. There we go. Okay, I thought that was an ad, but it's the actual piece. You'll notice that with some of these online periodicals, which periodical can be a magazine or a newspaper, there are lots of ads because they're trying to sell their space. In the old days when it was printed on paper, you would see ads in the paper. Now they're just going to pop up. So you're going to have to kind of navigate around those. But this is titled, Despite Social Distancing, We Still Need to Live Ethically with Each Other. So this is an opinion contributor, so this would count for something that you could review. So as you go through, usually you'll notice these are very short pieces. I have noticed the more notoriety someone has, sometimes they're given more space, but there are some general guidelines. Usually an opinion editorial is anywhere from 550 to 850 words. So it's more of a word count than a page count. And that's just because traditionally that's how newspapers and periodicals did their articles. It would be by word count, and it was more space. Now that we're electronic, that's not as important, but every publication will have a different criteria for what they publish. So anyway, there you'll see some headers, you'll see sort of, things that they're talking about. So the idea for the preliminary assignment is that you just read one, you can read more if you want to, but one opinion editorial, and then you respond to the prompts about it. Another thing that I wanted to show you is a lot of you guys in the fall, if you're a CCP student, or once you transfer away from JCC to a four-year school, some of you will be transferring there fairly soon. I think it's really cool to go to a newspaper that's at a university. It gives you a lot of information about the environment of that school. So I'm just going to go to the East Carolinian. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm a graduate of ECU and I just know that's their paper. But you could also put in like UNC Chapel Hill's student newspaper, and that's the Daily Tar Heel, I believe is what it's called. I may be wrong about that. State has one. I had a student years ago who was going to, I believe she was going to the University of Denver, and she just typed in the University of Denver student newspaper and it came up. So if there's a school that you're interested in, go ahead and maybe look at their newspaper. A lot of schools are sort of shut down now, so you may not be able to see, I don't know if they're keeping these things online. Maybe some of the students are working at the newspaper from, virtually from home. But, every school I can't say. But it looks like ECU has theirs still up and running because they're writing about the commencement being virtual and some pass-fail options for spring semester, things like that. So sorry, it's raining and I just got a notification that it's raining in my area. But anyway, I think it's really neat if there's a school that you're interested in to see what the opinions of that school are and how they handle certain controversies. So I'm going to opinion here. And one thing with a student paper that you need to be careful with, obviously a lot of journalism majors or a lot of English majors may work for the paper. So a lot of times they may, for a school paper, print staff writers. So try to avoid that if you can. If you notice here, this says editorial staff. So that wouldn't be considered really a pure opinion editorial. It would be considered more of a opinion, like an editorial opinion. So try to avoid that if you can. Also here you see submit a letter to the editor. In an opinion section of a newspaper, magazine, whether it's electronic or on actual paper, you'll have sort of three things. It'll be a letter to the editor, an opinion piece by one of the staff members or the editor of that paper, and then you'll have the opinion editorials by just regular people that aren't working for the paper. So you sort of have to look through here. But here's one I notice, and commencement cancellation is unfortunate but necessary. It looks like it's probably written by someone that's not on the editorial staff of the paper. So even if it's a student, in this case, since it's a student newspaper, it's okay that you could use that. Be considerate during COVID-19. That looks like, while again, it may be a student, it's not on their specific editorial staff. So you would just click on there, read the article, and then respond to the prompt. So it's fairly easy. And it's a preliminary assignment because I want you to see how these things read, how they feel. And then next week, you'll be writing your own opinion editorial. A quick story, I had a student years ago. He wanted to go to Carolina, and he was from Johnston County. He had never lived outside of Johnston County, and he did this assignment. And when he checked the opinion section of the UNC Tar Heel newspaper for students, there was a tree that had been burned, and it was a big controversy, and it was on Franklin Street, and everybody was really upset about it. And the individual who had burned the tree, I can't remember if it was during a celebration for basketball, but the tree got burned. This was a rare tree, a tree that was really, really important to the people of Chapel Hill. And the person got arrested. It was a big controversy. And that student came back to class and he was like, I never thought a whole school would rally around a tree. And I think that sometimes if you live in the same place your whole life, you don't realize that other communities think differently, act differently, and things are super important to them. And this tree was very important to the citizens and the students around the UNC campus. So it kind of awoke him to the fact that this school that he really wanted to go to may have thought a little differently than he did. So that's why I think it's sometimes fun just to see what the opinions are at the school where you may be going. Okay, so let's just go back, and I hope that makes sense. I just wanted to go over it with you really quickly. Here's your op-ed assignment for this week. And what I did, instead of putting it in a Microsoft Word document, I just went ahead and put it in the section here so you can read through it. I want you to include the name of the op-ed, the author, where it was published, and then something about the main idea, what the main purpose of this opinion editorial is, the one that you're reviewing. Then I want you to sort of analyze for logos, ethos, pathos, the style, the tone, and the intended audience. Avoid doing things, don't write it's for anybody, because honestly, an opinion editorial is usually for a specific type of audience. It's not for everybody. Usually it's trying to appeal to certain people. So I know that the COVID-19 coronavirus opinion editorials are probably for a lot of us because there's a general population that's very concerned about that. But, think about why the person wrote the opinion editorial, who they were trying to convince of something, and just try to think through it critically. I mean, you guys are in English 112 now. You've been through 111. You're getting close to being done with 112. Yay! I'm sure y'all are excited about that. I'm asking you to look at the logos, pathos, ethos. You did this in the rhetorical analysis, and in the rhetorical analysis, I was asking you to do full paragraphs on the different strategies, the rhetorical strategies. But for this, I'm just asking you basically to look at the logic, the credibility, and the emotion in there. So, you may just want one to three sentences for each. I mean, it doesn't have to be a whole bunch. Like, you don't have to write a whole extended essay on this thing. You're just sort of reviewing it. But I'm asking you to look at those things. I'm asking you to look at if the opinion was clearly stated. So sometimes people write opinion editorials and they don't necessarily make sense. And after you read through them, they're sort of, you're unclear. I have one that I may go over with you. I may do a third video. It's up to you if you want to look at it, but when I teach face-to-face classes, I often go over these in class where I show a good one and a not so great one. So I may post that towards the end of the week when you're starting to hopefully work on your own opinion editorial, and it may just show you how not to write one. Sometimes people get very animated about an opinion and they forget what their actual point is. So this happens a lot in conversation too, but most of the ones that are published, they are more polished because the editors aren't going to publish something that doesn't make sense most of the time. So then I want you to include an APA citation for the op-ed. This is just usually from a newspaper or an electronic site. So you can use your Siegel handbook to see how to properly cite that, or you can use the Purdue Online Writing Lab. I have that linked. I believe it's under resources, but you can also just Google Purdue OWL, OWL, and you should be able to find it. You can use an MLA header for this. It just keeps things a little simple. I know the cover pages are sometimes a little involved and difficult, so I'm fine if you do an MLA header for this, but make sure that your citation for the actual op-ed that you're reviewing is in APA format. I do want you to include one section in this reflection to show sort of why you chose it, why it was important to you, kind of a personal reflection. For the rest of the reflection, try to avoid things like I feel, I think, in my opinion. We know all those things because you wrote it, so you don't have to state the obvious with that. And that's not really advanced writing when you write about your feelings and your opinions and things. We know that this is your reflection because you're writing it. But in the actual section where I'm asking you to sort of do a first person reflection, I'm asking you to just sort of show why this was important to you, how, not so much how you feel about it. Academic writing isn't so much about feelings, but the message that you receive from it, that kind of thing. Use third person for the rest. So I hope this makes sense. I've kind of I did bullet points so you could just see each of the prompts that you had to include in the reflection. And I don't have a set page number or a set amount of paragraphs, just sort of respond. A lot of these things you can combine into one paragraph. It doesn't have to be 7 paragraphs. But bottom line, I'm asking you to review something so that you'll have at least some baseline for what an opinion editorial is and how you think about it before you write one yourself. Look to the next video where I actually explain all the bits and pieces of an opinion editorial so that when you write your own, you know sort of the baseline for it and the foundation and why we write opinion editorials. Okay, so I look forward to seeing these reflections, and please let me know if you have any questions.